Hello everyone, here's my review for The Punisher: One Last Kill. Punisher: One Last Kill follows Frank Castle trying to move past the death of his family and shooting his way out of a sticky situation. The positive reactions to this are bizarre to me, because watching this, it seems clear that Marvel can't be bothered with doing anything remotely interesting even when they only have 48 minutes to fill. One Last Kill is kind of pathetic in a lot of ways. In concept, I think this is a cool idea. I think this special could be a really neat way to bridge a gap for this character, whether that's between Daredevil Born Again and Spider-Man or whatever. But the thing is, One Last Kill doesn't do that. In fact, One Last Kill seemingly has nothing to do with anything, and the best way to describe it is that it's 23 minutes of mediocre setup for 23 minutes of mediocre action. I want to give Bernthal flowers for his performance, but he doesn't really do much acting here. There's barely any dialogue. As a matter of fact, nobody does much acting. Judith Light does really poorly with her exposition dump toward the beginning, but Andre Royo is always a welcome presence. The setup here is so bizarre. The catalyst for this special takes place before it starts, off-screen, and not in anything else. So One Last Kill sits in this really strange, self-contained space. Like, obviously, the last time we saw him was at the end of Born Again Season 1 when he escapes from Kingpin's capture. And by the time we get to him in the beginning of One Last Kill, he's murdered an entire crime family. It's just so bizarre to me that this wasn't made longer to actually show the catalyst for this special. But even on top of that, the way Frank's PTSD is portrayed is maybe the most uninspired way I've seen PTSD portrayed in the last 10 years. It's so bland, and it's clear Marvel has nothing interesting they actually want to do with this character. But then the matriarch of the Nyochi family shows up and just exposits to Frank that they're gonna have guys kill him, which sets up the second half of just mediocre action. Like, we need to stop beating around the bush here. This is really poorly edited. Like, it's to the point where there are times where the action here is almost incoherent. Which is such a shame because in concept, like, Frank Castle clearing a whole apartment building of bad guys is a really cool idea. And yes, it is bloody and brutal in One Last Kill, but that's not getting it to where it needs to be. Like, I think people act like all there is to an action sequence is how brutal it is. The effects are also pretty bad in places. Obviously, there's one shot in particular that's been memed to death at this point. Deservedly so, by the way. This is a multi-billion-dollar company that can't get CGI right still. And it never really feels like there's much back and forth between Frank and the criminals. It's kind of just Frank goes through the building and there's not much else to it. There is a nice beat towards the end once he's already out of the apartment building, but overall the action in this is so lackluster. Like I mentioned before, I think the worst part about One Last Kill is that Marvel obviously can't be bothered to spend more than 50 minutes on one of its coolest anti-heroes. Like, even outside the fact that I'm just disappointed that this is short, it's paced really poorly. The fact that it's basically 2 acts doesn't really bother me. I think that's actually an interesting structure for what they were going for. It just should have been at least 10 minutes longer. Not only to, like I said, actually show us the catalyst, but also to further develop Frank's PTSD. What's here is pretty flat. This special wants us to believe this is Frank getting over his PTSD, and it's just not nearly solid enough to actually do that. One Last Kill was a huge disappointment, and I don't know how they can mess Frank Castle up this hard. Like, seriously, The Punisher cannot be that hard to write, which is not to say it doesn't take effort. The first season of the TV show is great, but how can Marvel mess up so badly what should have been just an hour-long special with the guy? This is just baffling to me. So with that, I'm going to give One Last Kill a 4.8 out of 10. This is such a nothing burger of 48 minutes. Like, I feel like I just wasted my time. It's not even, like, abhorrently bad. It's just, I know I'm going to forget I watched it in a week. But it seems like a lot of people are liking this somehow, so if you enjoyed Punisher: One Last Kill, let me know in the comments why. Thank you for watching, and I'll talk to you all in the next one.